word tonight. Thank you, Tremaine. Really appreciate it. The 11th hour with Brian Williams starts now.
And good evening once again. Day 1371 this was of the Trump administration. 13 days until Election Day. 22 hours remain until Trump and Biden meet in Nashville, Tennessee for their final debate, moderated by our own colleague Kristen Welker. Tonight we saw Trump and Obama, though on separate stages in separate battleground states. Obama went first at a drive-in rally in Philadelphia where he went big with a withering attack on the incumbent.
He hasn't shown any interest in doing the work or helping anybody but himself and his friends or treating the presidency like a reality show that he can use to get attention. And by the way, even then his TV ratings are down. So you know that upsets him. But the thing is, this is not a reality show, this is reality. The only people truly better off than they were 4 years ago are the billionaires who got his tax cuts. We know that he continues to do business with China because he's got a secret Chinese bank account. How is that possible? Can you imagine if I had a secret Chinese bank account when I was running for re-election? You think Fox News might have been a little concerned about that? They would have called me Beijing Barry. I get that this president wants full credit for the economy he inherited and zero blame for the pandemic that he ignored. But you know what? The job doesn't work that way. Tweeting at the television doesn't fix things. Making stuff up doesn't make people's lives better.
Donald Trump followed up tonight with what has now become routine, a packed rally, this time in North Carolina, where he covered a range of topics from boasting about his response to the coronavirus to random broadsides and grievances, including a few swipes back at Barack Obama.
That pandemic is rounding the corner. They hate it when I say it. All you hear is COVID, 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 COVID. COVID, 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 COVID. They want to scare the hell out of everyone. 60 Minutes, fake 60 Minutes. She said, you are begging for women to love you. You said, women, please love you. You'll see. You'll see. Wait till you see. We have a little surprise for 60 Minutes. They've said, he is so stupid. Then they say, he's not really smart. Then they say, he's trying to take over the entire country. You know, Obama's now campaigning. There was nobody that campaigned harder for crooked Hillary Clinton than Obama. He said, he will not be our president. Then I won. I think the only one more unhappy than crooked Hillary that night was Barack Hussein Obama.
While the president was on stage, in a case of curious timing, and we'll say it straight up, possibly dubious motives, there was a hastily arranged press conference at FBI headquarters in Washington. It was ostensibly about threatening emails that are going around, meant to look like they were sent out by the far-right group, the Proud Boys. The emails appear to tell Democratic voters to switch to the Republican Party. Some of them threaten them if they don't vote for Trump. We'll have more on this unusual press conference just ahead in our broadcast tonight. Not long after tonight's event, the Washington Post reported Trump is considering firing the FBI director, Chris Wray, after Election Day. Paper also says Attorney General Bill Barr's position isn't looking that secure either these days. Despite this latest palace intrigue, there's still a pandemic, and most of the nation is now caught firmly in the grip of this latest wave of infections. Late this afternoon, in fact, the CDC offered this grim assessment.
We're seeing a distressing trend here in the United States with COVID-19 cases increasing in nearly 75% of the country. We've seen nearly 60,000 cases a day on average, as well as 700 deaths.
Total confirmed cases in the U.S. now top 8.3 million, with the death toll now over 223,000. Over 1,000 people died in just the past day alone. In a previously taped town hall event for Sinclair Broadcasting, Trump was again defending his track record in handling this virus.
With COVID, is there anything that you think you could have done differently? If you had a mulligan or a do-over on one aspect of the way you handled it, what would it be?
Not much. Look, it's all over the world. You have a lot of great leaders. There are a lot of smart people. It's all over the world. It came out of China. China should have stopped it.
Negotiations over another coronavirus relief bill still underway. Senate Democrats today blocked Republicans' effort to pass a $500 billion bill. Over in the House, Speaker Pelosi is still pushing for relief in the $2.2 trillion range. Trump White House has offered a $1.8 trillion proposal. Republican senators are also focused on getting Judge Amy Coney Barrett confirmed. Today, she met with senators ahead of tomorrow's planned vote to move her nomination out of committee until the full Senate. Tonight on this network, the Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, confirmed that 10 Democrats on the Judiciary Committee will boycott that vote. There's also a rather interesting development tonight concerning Trump's personal lawyer and former mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani. He had a hand in helping to get the president impeached and appears to be in the lead in pushing the president's latest allegations about his opponent. Well, it turns out Rudy also has a cameo in the latest Sacha Baron Cohen Borat film. NBC News has obtained a copy of the film that appears to show Giuliani and an actress playing a reporter going into a hotel bedroom for drinks in what may be a compromising few moments. Tonight, Giuliani called the video a complete fabrication, says a suspicious-looking screen grab from the scene is simply him tucking in his shirt after removing his microphone following an interview. He says he called the police once he realized Sacha Baron Cohen was behind it. It's a lot, but let's bring in our leadoff discussion group for this pre-debate Wednesday night. Jonathan Lemire, White House reporter for the Associated Press. Annie Carney, White House reporter for the New York Times. Jason Johnson, campaign veteran, a journalist, a contributor over at the Grio, and a professor of politics at Morgan State University. Good evening and welcome to you all. Annie, let's see, we're 21 hours in change away from the start of this debate now. Some of our colleagues with a straight face have teased out a plot line that features the president unrolling a new tone tomorrow night. Has he had any debate prep that you've been able to learn? Do you expect anything different tomorrow night?
No, there has been no debate prep. There were a few sessions on his calendar, but he did not partake in those. The hope among his aides is that he will let Biden do more talking and that he will lay out a vision for his second term. It's, less than 2 weeks until Election Day, and he has still not laid out a clear vision for his second term, despite multiple attempts by his friendliest interlocutors like Sean Hannity asking him to do so. I don't expect it would be surprising if he had something to say on that now. The other thing is they want him to debut a new tone. He has had no debate prep sessions, and over the past few days, we've seen him really take on fights with people who are not Joe Biden. First it was Fauci, then it was Leslie Stahl from 60 Minutes. Today it was Obama a little bit at the rally. He seems to be looking for other targets when many of his aides want him to really just be drawing a contrast with Biden. Another thing that was offered to him as a way to, attract some of the voters who might be turned off by his tone and his Twitter feed is to use humor and say, I promise in a second term not to tweet as much. That would also be a new tone that we've never seen him do. So he's been given some ideas of how to do better in the second debate. But at this point, I think your viewers are probably tired of new tone, and at this point, Trump is going to do what he wants to do.
Yeah, perhaps they're a pretty savvy bunch. Hey, Jason, I want to play for you a little bit more of, let's call him Joe Biden's leading surrogate.
With Joe and Kamala at the helm, you're not going to have to think about the crazy things they said every day. You'll be able to go about your lives knowing that the president is not going to retweet conspiracy theories about secret cabals running the world, or that Navy SEALs didn't actually kill bin Laden. Think about that. The president of the United States retweeted that. Imagine.
Jason, not unlike a wine review, I found hints of Chris Rock and Seinfeld in today's delivery. Do you think it can be as effective as it was kind of reassuring to Democrats in the base? After all, his job was to get out the vote in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Brian, I thought it was fantastic. And in fact, what I heard was a little of John Lovitz playing Michael Dukakis on SNL like 25 years ago. How could I lose to this guy, right? I mean, there was such exasperation in Barack Obama's speech of like, this guy is clearly incompetent. He tweets insane theories. You can't not vote for him. It's red meat for the base. It's catharsis for people who are watching it. But I also think this is really interesting, Brian. If you think about it, the biggest, most important surrogate for Joe Biden would be Barack Obama, and he hasn't been deployed until these last 2 weeks. That is indicative of a campaign that is very confident. You would think that if Biden was really, really concerned that Barack Obama would have been out basically past Labor Day. So I think this is a sign that perhaps Joe Biden is thinking, I can run up the numbers in places like Pennsylvania, as opposed to I've got to send Barack Obama there to make sure I secure these locations. So I think this is a good sign strategically for the campaign, and a good sign that this is the kind of rhetoric that they're on, that they're selling, look, we already know this guy is competent and the incumbent is terrible, as opposed to we're desperate and we're concerned.
And Jonathan Lemire, take us out on the trail figuratively with you. Talk about these Trump rallies as events, as performance art compared to 2016. How do they compare, especially in terms of crowds and energy and the like?
Well, for the MAGA set, they're rock concerts, and certainly the president is playing a lot of the greatest hits night after night. I was there last night with him in Erie, Pennsylvania, when he spoke for about an hour. But there are some key differences and some similarities to 2016. First of all, let's start on the crowd size. They have gotten significantly bigger in recent weeks. We are now approaching 2016 size. After the pandemic, after he scuttled rallies for a while, he sort of slowly brought them back, and they were significantly smaller. They are now, it's thousands of people every night, most evenings, very few in masks, never any social distancing. Let's remember, these are major events being held in the pandemic, so that's different than 4 years ago. But aides are frustrated at another change, is that in 4 years ago, particularly in the stretch run of the campaign, the president was, for him, relatively disciplined. He had key issues that he would hammer night after night, whether it be on immigration or trade or alleging Hillary Clinton corruption. It's far more scattershot this time around. He's not as zeroed in on a message. It's a lot more personal grievance. Certainly, there have always been attacks on the media, but they've been escalated even further in these weeks. And last night, he did deliver what his aides want to be his closing message. He said, look, it was about the economy. And he told the people there, he's like, you vote for me, you vote for the economic recovery that's already begun from this pandemic. If you vote for Joe Biden, you'll get socialist economic policies, another depression. That's what his aides want him to say. He did say it. But it was drowned out by, Annie said, by feuds with Fauci and Leslie Stahl and other scattershot messaging that his aides are deeply frustrated, has blunted the impact of what he's really trying to deliver as a closing message.
And Annie, back over to you. Talk some more about your reporting that for this boss who only likes to hear good news more than most, what these glimmers of hope are that aides are passing along to him these days.
There's some better polls. They're not great polls, but there's a lot of excitement among his aides about an ABC poll that came out yesterday that showed a 1-point race in North Carolina. They are saying that they're seeing his numbers come back from the hit they took after the double whammy of the first debate, where his performance was widely panned, and then his hospitalization for the coronavirus. It seems like he has convinced most of his supporters that his health is fine. He's doing multiple rallies a day. So they've seen their numbers kind of come back from that horrible week for them, and that's a glimmer of hope. And they think this debate is their final chance for a reset. So they think that, I hear a lot of people saying that conceding that the president had a bad debate, and his bad debate overshadowed Biden's debate, which they all didn't think was particularly strong. So the hope is that if the president can step back, it could, reset the dynamics a little bit. That being said, early voting is going gangbusters in states like North Carolina and other critical states. So time is of the essence. But they think it's a tight race. They're hoping for tight. And for a reset possibly on Election Day when a lot of Republican voters vote.
Indeed. Jason, let's talk about the chance of that reset, and a question that I hear asked at least once a day now. How much of that Obama-Biden coalition can Biden-Harris count on turning out?
Well, Brian, all the numbers say that it's not even going to necessarily look like the Obama coalition. There are two particular groups that Biden seems to be doing particularly well with that we haven't seen in a long time. He's doing very well with seniors, including white seniors. I mean, he's competitive with working class whites, non-educated whites, and white seniors in a way that President Barack Obama always struggled with. Obama made up those numbers by large support from African Americans, large support from Latinos, large support from young people. So I think the Biden coalition might be a bit wider. It might be a bit older. It might be a bit more spread out than we saw from the previous coalition. But a lot of that is a sort of level of frustration with Donald Trump and his inability to be competitive with independent voters. I think right now, if you look at the places that Donald Trump's campaign is excited about or paying attention to, they're excited that they're only 1% ahead, or they're doing better in North Carolina, they're doing something better in Arizona. These are places that the Biden campaign would consider the cherry on top. Biden doesn't have to win Arizona. Biden doesn't have to win North Carolina. So I think the coalition that Biden is putting together is making it much more difficult for Republicans to strategize these last 2 weeks in the past, because he seems to have a wider swath of American support than we've seen for a Democrat in a long time.
Hey, Jonathan Lemire, in our closing seconds, anytime the FBI has a press conference within 2 weeks of an election, it gets your attention, Jim Comey or not, as it did tonight. And we should be skeptical because of our times, because of this administration, because nothing greater than the fact that Barack Obama had a good day. Donald Trump was on the stage in North Carolina. I'm going to quote from Garrett Graff. One reason you're in a job like DHS Secretary or DNI, that you don't compromise your integrity and lie badly, is because there are moments like right now when the public needs to trust you. So there was the DNI approaching the microphones, followed by the head of the FBI. What do you think that was all about tonight?
You're right, Brian. Certainly, it was a hastily called news conference. Reporters were only given about a half hour's notice before this, and was told that it was going to be a significant announcement on election security, which raised all sorts of eyebrow and antenna across Washington. Certainly, we remember the late developments in the 2016 race caused by James Comey's letter about the Hillary Clinton email investigation. It's hard to know. This is the president. Everything the president in this 4 years. Politics is everywhere. We know that he has touched institutions. He has touched branches of government that have never been political before, which now seem to be, CDC among them. And this is one where I think this announcement has been greeted with some skepticism. The allegations about Iran and Russia having voter information that largely, at least at first glance, appears to be publicly available. So there's a sense, at least among some, that this is perhaps an overhyped event to try to change their narrative, to try to change the conversation, and to, yes, cast doubt about the integrity of the election. As much as there was reassurances tonight that Americans should have faith in their voting, of course, here we are, allegations of foreign interference at the end, allegedly to hurt President Trump, although it's not quite clear why that would be. It wasn't spelled out. But it just adds to the mix here of, as Americans fear 2 weeks out, that the results on Election Day and the days that follow are going to be unclear and murky, and perhaps undermine the confidence in their results.
Yeah, people need to be very sharp consumers. Here's a credibility challenge. DNI choosing to toss Donald Trump's name into that press conference tonight. Great thanks to our big three on a Wednesday. Jonathan Lemire, Amy Carney, Jason Johnson. Greatly appreciate it.